Well, I'm joined now by the rapper and mental health campaigner, Professor Green. Fantastic to have you on the show. I mean, let's look at the fuel poverty going on, the cost of living crisis, heating or eating, and record numbers of people having to go to food banks. I mean, how on earth is this acceptable in the 21st century?
I don't think it is. And I think it's great to partner with British Gas to highlight the British Gas Energy Trust and to let people know that there is support available. But I'd much rather not be here having to highlight support being available and people not needing the support. I think, I've spent a lot of time in food banks, and the image of the idea people have of who's walking through those doors is not what people would think. And, for all the flaunting of figures of record numbers of people in employment, what the government that we have don't tend to discuss is how many of those people are earning their poverty and beneath the breadline, because we have record numbers of people in employment that, are existing as opposed to living and are barely surviving. And we're seeing more and more people. There's, an exponential increase in people experiencing debt for the first time. Energy debt, which wasn't a phrase that was coined when I was growing up. It was just debt. And there wasn't, charitable trusts such as the British Gas Energy Trust when I was growing up. And, I grew up with my nan's anxieties around money because of all the stress that existed in our household. My grandmother brought me up. And there was a lot of robbing Peter to pay Paul, being ushered off so as my nan could make an excuse to one debt collector or borrow money from one debt collector to pay another. Fortunately, there are places, and charities providing support for people now, but then you've got to get over all the barriers that people have accessing the support. Pride being one of them, another being language barriers, another being, computer literacy or access to a computer. There's so many challenges that people face just to access this support. It seems like there's an easier resolve here, and it should, my belief is that, the bare necessities shouldn't be a luxury afforded to certain people, which should be afforded to one and all, which might seem like a bit of a pipe dream in today's day and age, but it should be a priority.
I mean, you are a big campaigner when it comes to mental health, and without doubt, people in debt, people who can't feed their families, there's a huge amount of pressure and strain on them. What is the impact in particular for, say, men who often, you mentioned pride earlier, are very reticent about trying to access help or owning up to the fact that they may not be able to provide for their children?
I became a father a little over a year ago, and, people say to me, since I've done all right for myself, well, you're middle class now. I can never be middle class. I will always have my working class anxieties. I can't get rid of them. All I can hope is that my child will grow up differently, but that's going to take a hell of a lot of hard work from me. And having become a father, the idea of not being able to provide for my son, like, everything becomes realer at that point. And it makes me much more focused on getting rid of my mortgage and doing all the things that I can to try and provide a future for my son that's different to the one that, I was afforded. It's scary, the idea of not being able to provide for your family, and, the stigma that exists around being a man and not being able to provide. It'd be incredibly difficult, and it's frightening. And I understand the pride that comes with that and not wanting to open up about needing help. But I think it's really important. Listen, I've been in debt. My money management skills were terrible for the larger part of my life, because I had no real education to speak of, let alone, education as far as money management. And again, to go back to the British Gas Energy Trust, they're there to provide help, not just financial help, but practical help as well if necessary. And I think it's important that people access that help, because it's an all too important education. It's, whether you need help with reducing the cost of your energy, which also has a positive knock-on effect as far as sustainability, affordability and sustainability. They go hand in hand. And, if you need financial help, they're there for that too. But I think more needs to be done, if I'm honest, not least of all by our government.
Now, I'm glad you raised that, because there'll be a lot of people out there who have no idea that there is access to help. Can you tell our audience, if they're watching this right now thinking, I might need to get in touch with that, how they would do so?
Yes, please. If you have access to a browser, search British Gas Energy Trust. They're also supporting a lot of community projects which are able to, which people are able to access that may not be able to access the service directly. So please, if you can, visit British Gas Energy Trust, and you'll find all the information you need there to help you find the support that you need, whatever your problem may be.